In this video of Cardano Hopium, we are going to dive into the charts to see whether or not we can actually see a $10 ADA in this particular cycle, or even above and beyond $10. We'll take a look at it from a technical standpoint and then also confirm whether or not we're going to see enough kind of adoption to actually drive that kind of price discovery. As we get into this video, if you find it useful and informative, then do go ahead and hit that like button. I really do appreciate that. If you happen to be new to the channel, then why not go ahead and subscribe, tap that bell, select all notifications, and in doing so, you will be kept up to date with absolutely everything that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. Right, with that out of the way, let's actually dive down into this chart and actually talk about what would be required from a technical standpoint to see us actually go above $10. So obviously, this is the weekly chart, guys. We have these 5 impulse waves to the upside. We've been tracking this for a while. This should be pretty familiar to most of the viewers on the channel. Obviously, the 4th wave correction has hit many by pretty hard, and obviously, this is a fantastic opportunity to get back in if you were missing the opportunity down in wave 2 or at the beginning of the bull run. Of course, you could have dollar cost average it on your way to the upside anyway. And again, if you're super long, it doesn't matter ultimately what happens in this cycle if you're thinking 5 to 10 years down the line. Okay, and Cardano has a very bright future in my opinion. Now, in this particular video, we're not going to reference, the 14,000% gains that have been made so far, and we're really going to focus in on whether or not we're going to go higher than the $10 kind of price expectations that so many people have. In order to do this, we're going to jump on down into our daily view. We're just going to expand this up a little bit, and we're going to actually take a look at what's going on. So to start with, we have a Fibonacci retracement tool just here, right? This basically runs from the high of wave 3 and the low of wave 4. This actually then shows us moving up to a $7.22 level. Okay, and basically then that's quite a reasonable kind of price expectation, something that I can see actually happening based on just this particular area here of the chart, right? That performance between wave 3 and wave 4 showing us that we could potentially move up in wave 5 to $7.23. Now, obviously, we're talking about going higher. Could we actually go higher enough to see $10 or maybe even more than $10 from a technical point of view? And in order to really understand this, what we're going to have to do is actually change some of these kind of this Fibonacci. So the first thing we're going to do is actually delete this one off and actually take a look at these 5 impulse waves. Okay, and this is basically trends. That's how we really want to think about these impulses or impulse waves to the upside. Right, there's 2 correction waves, wave 2 and wave 4, and then there are, of course, these 3 impulse waves to the upside. So the trend is very much an upward trend. There are some micro movements. People want to say it's in a downward trend here. Of course, over here, right? But ultimately, the bigger picture is there's a big upward trend, okay? Nothing moves in straight lines. There are going to be fluctuations in that where we do start to see things move down or sideways. But the big picture is it's an upward trend, okay? And that upward trend is likely to continue until we get to the end of the bull run. And obviously that is anticipated to be the end of the year, beginning of 2022. I would like to think that the bull run's going to have finished by the end of Q1 2022. But obviously timing is the hardest thing to get, and it's something that you might not actually get right at all, right? And ultimately, it's the hardest part of the whole entire thing. We can predict out the prices of where things are likely to go, the probability of them hitting prices, but getting there by a specific time is always very, very difficult. So knowing that we're in an upward trend and that we have several trends inside that overall trend, which is we've gone up, we had a trend up, we had a trend down, we trended up, we trended down, and we're trending up again, okay? Although we are stagnant right now. So actually, what happens if we actually take all of these trends into consideration? Well, we can actually go ahead and take our second wave correction into consideration for where we think things are likely to go. So if I go ahead and take our wave 2 correction down here, and I'm going to go ahead and take into consideration the top of wave 3, so we pop that in, and then we actually come down and consider the correction from wave 3 to wave 4, and we actually go ahead and actually put this down at the bottom here. This actually then shows us a trend-based Fibonacci retracement tool with those extensions associated. And basically this then takes into consideration the size of the impulse wave that we had here to the top of wave 3, and of course the size of the correction that came after it with wave 4. Okay, so when we actually take into consideration 1, 2, and 3 anchor points rather than just the 2 anchor points that you would normally have with a regular Fibonacci. This actually then shows us some interesting kind of perspectives. And actually, if we expand this up, you can see that this actually has the potential to go up to $11.31, wicking above that $10 range. Again, the 3.618 comes in just short of the $10 range. So in terms of can we see from a technical point of view a $10 ADA, the good news is that yes, we can. We can see a $10 ADA in the charts here from a technical point of view based on the current trends and the current performance of 2021. So if things were to continue the way they have been, then actually we're going to see us kind of move on nicely above that $10 range in this particular cycle. That could be this year. It could be the beginning of next year. Okay, and obviously to get to that $11 range or $10 range, what is actually going to be required to see that actually come in, right? Obviously, we have started this progression to the upside with wave 5, but obviously wave 5 is going to be made up of waves in itself, right? Nothing moves in straight lines. There'll be a wave 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 on the journey to the top of wave 5 in general. Now, when we talk about, moving up to $11.31, it does require a certain amount of things to actually go on in the background, right? Because prices don't just move up. They come from two things. First of all, you need to have a squeeze on the supply, and then you need to have demand. It comes down to those two basic fundamental things, supply and demand. What it doesn't require, or what isn't required to actually see price discovery to this kind of magnitude, is market capitalization. It doesn't actually require a lot of money to move into a project if there is a squeeze on the supply. That supply and demand is ultimately what it's all about. And with Cardano, I think we have 70% of it delegated. We've got close to 1 million validators and pools now operating on the network. So basically, we're already having a fair amount of a squeeze on the supply. And all we really need to see now is actually demand. And the demand is actually coming thick and fast. And it might be something that you're not overly aware of, or something that you are acutely aware of. But basically, let's actually just break this down to understand what's going on. Okay, because we have got Cardano in Africa, right? So basically, the Ethiopian deal basically does see 5 million. Let me just make sure I get my numbers right on this one. 5 million students to receive blockchain-based IDs, right? These DIDs, these digital IDs. Now, that's 5 million people who will have to basically have transactions on the network. Okay, so that's going to have a bit of an impact on the price of Cardano's ADA, because ADA will be utilized for those transactions. So 5 million students and teachers in Ethiopia on the blockchain basically translates to transactional volume. Okay, and transactional volume on the chain will basically help with the demand. Okay, but this is only one element. This will happen in Q1 of 2022, I think, is how it's kind of roughly scheduled. Obviously, that goes a little bit further than just that, because we also had Cardano partnering up with the American telecom service Dish Network, which is, of course, a Fortune 500 company. They have over 19 million customers, and this particular partnership is looking to basically onboard 8 million digital identities onto the Cardano ecosystem. So you have 5 million from Ethiopia, and then you have 8 million from Americans' Dish Network, right? So basically that gets you to 13 million transactions. Okay, so you're starting to see some pretty significant transactional volume and, demand for ADA to basically get paying for those transactions. So already you've kind of got those things kind of going on in the background. Of course, in order for that to kind of come to fruition, you need to see that scaling solution, the 𝗕𝗓𝗪 solution, the 𝗕𝗓𝗪 protocol on the Cardano ecosystem. And as I mentioned earlier, 1 million validators on the network is huge, right? And it's a huge amount of validators, but it's really important when we consider that number in relation to the 𝗕𝗓𝗪 protocol. The 𝗕𝗓𝗪 protocol will allow for 1,000 transactions per second per validator. Okay, so basically what we're doing here is basically scaling the Cardano ecosystem beyond the capabilities of many blockchains in the space, right? And this is absolutely key to seeing millions upon millions of people on board onto the ecosystem, tens of millions, hundreds of millions, potentially 1 billion people in the future, right? In order to see those kind of things happen, we need to see that scalability, and that's exactly what the Hydra protocol is all about. So when we actually take into consideration that we are looking to push the price up, we really need to see that transactional volume come in. Now, obviously, we've only really spoken about here two kind of big deals, right? One, obviously, Ethiopia with 5 million students and teachers, then obviously Dish with 8 million customers onboarding onto the ecosystem, 13 million. 13 million, million transactions will be done at some point on the network, which is pretty significant. But again, it goes above and beyond even just that, because when we talk about getting demand for ADA, we need to also consider the fact that we've just launched smart contracts, and there's a whole host of projects waiting to launch on the ecosystem. Once they actually start launching things like Meld, Card Starter, what else have we got going on in the background? We've got SingularityNet, SingularityDAO, all those projects that might want to migrate over from Ethereum over to Cardano. If Celsius does move over from Ethereum to Cardano, the transactional volume for Celsius is going to be insane. And these are the kind of things that are going to absolutely send Cardano to these kind of levels, right? It's going to really make this price pop well above that $10 range. And according to the 4.236 extension of the trend-based Fibonacci extensions, $11.31 seems to be your most plausible area for resistance to be found. This means that ultimately, yes, we can see a $10 ADA in this particular cycle. Whether that is end of year or beginning of next year is always the hardest thing to tell, but it does look pretty promising for some pretty good price discovery for Cardano's ADA in the near future. Once we kind of get those projects launching on the ecosystem, once we start to see those digital IDs launch in Ethiopia with Dish customers, we are going to see this particular ecosystem absolutely explode. Guys, I'm going to leave the video there, but hopefully you have found it useful and informative. Hopefully you have found this good hopium for ADA in the very near future. If you have, hit the like button. I really do appreciate that. If you happen to be new to the channel, then why not go ahead and subscribe? Tap that bell, select all notifications, and in doing so, you will be kept up to date with absolutely everything that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. With this said, done, and out of the way, I hope everyone has a fantastic day, and I'll catch you all in the next one.